Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for your patience. Sorry, we were having some technical difficulties, but we got it up and working right now as good as we can. Kim's camera's not working, but you'll see her lovely content instead. But thank you. We're excited to have you guys join and to learn more about building AI agents directly into Business Central. If you're new here and you haven't joined, Kim, she's our favorite MVP and Business Central expert. She brings over 30 years of experience, so I know we're going to have really great insights today. Um, but without further ado, sorry, here's Kim. If you have any questions throughout the event, please put it in the Q&A. That way I can say your question for you and make sure that it gets answered. But we're going to dive in. So Kim, why don't you go ahead and take the screen?
Will do. Okay, hopefully you can see my screen. Can you, Allie?
Yes.
Okay, good. Again, sorry for the technical issues today, but welcome. I'm really excited to show you AI agents inside of Business Central. Um, I think we're just going to be able to build so many things that help us with, to be better and maybe see controls and initiate controls behind the scenes. So let's get started. I'll tell you, I didn't know Allie was going to do an introduction, but there's me again, since you can't see me on screen, which is good anyway. I love Business Central and all things Business Central. Been doing it for a long time. If you want to know more ways to get involved, you can reach out to me. You'll have my contact information at the end. You're not here to talk about me. Let's talk about agents. Um, what I hope you get today is some understanding of what you can do, what it takes to get started. We're going to do some demos, and then got to think about those governing things and controls and permissions. Really, um, this audience, I hope it spans everything, right? This is really for anyone who wants to automate some repetitive tasks. So we're going to talk about a lot of context, how we build them, how we govern them. There's multiple ways to do agents, and we'll talk about that a little bit as well. So again, what I hope you walk away with today is what is an agent, right? Because there are different kinds of agents even. Um, well, what's Copilot versus a BC agent, right? What are those requirements? It's not just permissions and environment. There's some billing that can go along with Copilot tasks, depending upon what you're using. We're going to look at a lot of scenarios because I want you to have some ideas what agents can do. I'm going to walk through the wizard because there's a wizard that helps me build this. I'm not smart enough to do it on my own. I'm a demo a simple scenario. I was working on a more difficult one, and if we get time, we'll look at it. And again, that governance. Um, you know, agent. How do you explain an agent? And I found this great little definition that I want to share. And I hope I don't repeat myself too often, but I probably will. But think of an agent as a digital employee. I thought that was great. A digital employee that can perform some business processes on your behalf, right? Because they're your employee. But they're going to use AI reasoning, the Business Central logic, right? But operating within those permissions and governance controls. I love that definition, and I hope that kind of helps clarify some things. Okay, so let's talk about big picture a little bit. Again, what's Copilot versus agent? Well, Copilot's kind of like um, ChatGPT in a way, right? Um, it helps you do work, but an agent actually does some work for you. A co-pilot can answer questions. The agent takes actions. Co-pilot gives suggestions. An agent executes. The co-pilot is user-driven. The agent's more process-driven. And you do things in Copilot like show me open invoices, right? Or as an agent, you say process invoices. So it's an extension in a lot of ways of Copilot, in my opinion. So I gave you a little screenshot here to show you, the Copilot symbol. And these are what agents look like inside of Business Central. And I will be pulling up Business Central for you. So I hope this gives you a little bit of that big picture view. So there are, whoops, what happened to my screen? There are 3 paths to building agents. We're going to talk about the first one, which is the Business Central Agent Designer. You can design them, configure them, and test them, right? There are Copilot Studio brings more capability to the dance, okay? There's a connector to Business Central. You can use some low-code tools, and there's some standard scenarios. Take it a step further, and maybe I want Copilot Studio, which is an enhanced Copilot with a Business Central server, and it's the big boss, right? As you progress through your knowledge of using agents, you may get to the third one there. Somebody tried to start me out at the third one. I felt like I failed desperately. So I'm happy to start at number 1 and work my way up. Okay, when do you use these different paths, right? So I think one of the things that I was told with Business Central is a great way to prototype automation that you want to do, like releasing sales orders or navigating to pages or reviewing purchase invoices, things like that. And maybe they're kind of straightforward steps that I need to take. Find a customer, create a sales order. You really know exactly what you want the task to do, right? Now it can do some complex processes, but maybe it's more of a coordinator for that. Other things like, create a rush sales order and notify a manager if a certain condition applies. So it can take it to higher levels. I love the little matrix. I found it. I think Copilot probably helped me put it together, but I thought it gave a good example of when to use what task, what path to create an agent. I want to spend a lot of time on that because we want to get to making some agents here. So whoops, I did the same thing with my screen. All right. Going back to that big picture just a little bit, right? Copilot answering the question, agent monitoring things and acting. I was like, so like what? And I stole this from a colleague, and it's related to manufacturing inventory, but some of the ideas were, well, you want to look for POs that are coming in late. And tell me about them, right? Right now we can see them, right? But somebody's got to monitor it. Well, an agent can sit there and monitor it for us. Or maybe we're looking at quality hold, right? If a supervisor puts items on quality and that's going to affect my production line, well, again, notify somebody. So all of these were things where you were kind of alerting somebody, flagging something, just monitoring and helping trigger a plan. And those are great tools, and they can be running behind the scenes for us and helping us work more efficiently. Here's a few others. Again, they were around manufacturing, and I love them. A couple of these were looking at my items, and if am I missing lead times on items, somebody's setting them up and I'm missing lead times. Sure, I could track that with changelog and find out who did it, but that's not helping me get alerted and send me an email that says, check these out. or I forgot a reorder point, or my safety stocks haven't been touched in 12 months, right? So all of these items here are just ideas of ways that we can build agents to help us. Oh, and I'm not done. I got a couple more here for you. So you can create agents that really dig in, right? And when you want them to run. The ones I'm going to show you right now are really in a preview mode, and I'm executing them. But they're designed so that I can set these up so that they run. This colleague of mine actually created these agents and traced them over time, and you could see that they were actually saving companies money. These were pushing to that more advanced level. But again, I think some great suggestions. We do have a new feature in Business Central with the latest release for ABC classification. But again, you have to execute it. Whereas this ABC agent was actually looking for something that needed to be moved up from class B to a class A item, or go from an A to a B, and kind of help keep those adjusting. And maybe you don't want that to happen on a weekly basis, right? But you could schedule it to run once a quarter or once every 6 months. So those are the kinds of things that you're able to put into place to help you. So quite a few ideas there. My demo is going to be a lot more simplified. We got to crawl before we can walk, right? But this is kind of the steps that we're going to go through using the Business Central agent. This is the agent wizard, the window of it. And it's going to walk us through this. We create the agent, we give it instructions, we have to give it permissions and profile, and we can simulate how we're going to trigger. We can troubleshoot it right here, and we can see if it's going to use anything out of Copilot. I haven't found one yet that I've done that actually uses any Copilot credits, but it will help us learn those if we are using them. So what does all this mean, Kim? So we are going to walk through this wizard. So once we've identified that name, we're going to work through these next 5 things on the screen, right? What's the role? Is that for an accountant, for a production manager, or for somebody in purchasing? What pages or data do I want it to use in my instructions, right? Do I need a human to interact or give me confirmation of something? I can specify an output format or how to handle exceptions. And then the last item there is test your agent. So I actually get into what they're calling the task playground there, and it's going to show me what it's doing. And step by step, I can see what the agent is doing. And so I can use that log, if you will, to see where it's stumbling or where it's having trouble finding what I want it to find. And again, it's all like using anything AI. It's natural language. I have to know how to write lines of code. It's just telling it what I want. And there takes me a little bit to learn how to tell it what I want, right? Okay, so we're going to go through these steps again as I demo, but what we start with is this agent. Now notice the top of the screen. The way I start is I have this pentagon here with an A in it. The others that are here are my payables agents, which is provided by Microsoft, and my sales order agent, also provided by Microsoft. Any that I add will have different codes in them, but the single A stands for agent, and I'm going to create. I do have the ability to start with some templates that might already be in the system. In the version that I'm going to show today, it's an older one. It only has one template. And I'm going to give it a name, some description. I'm going to go through the profile, the permission, and the instructions, and then we're going to test, right? Same set of steps. Okay. So here's our first screen. We're creating the agent. We clicked new. So I can start from scratch, right? That's what that first thing says, create agent from scratch. Or if I have a list, this one I only have a sales validation agent. It opens some sales orders and does something. And we can look at that in our demo. That's simple, right? I'm either going to use this, create one from an example, or start from scratch. Well, I do it the hard way. We're going to start from scratch. First screen's not too scary here. It says, all right, give me a name. In my example, I called it customer helper. When I did that, it automatically took the C from customer and the H from helper and made that my initials. Why? The initials become my initials that are in my agent. I didn't try to use 3. I think you can only have 2, but I don't know that for sure. Whatever I put in my name also goes in display name by default. I can change that. And then a description to really say what the agent does is helpful for other people that might want to see this. You know what? As soon as I click next, there's an arrow here that you can't see. So you click the arrow here and goes to the next screen, and you've already got an agent created. It's not doing anything yet, but we created one. All right. So the next thing we do is we get to this screen, and this is where you spend a bit of time. Actually, this screen has changed a little bit since I got this screenshot. We'll show you the real one. But it says, okay, what profile do we should have access to this? This is important because whatever profile you put here is what the agent is going to be able to see in Business Central. So if I put accountant on here and I'm trying to get information out of production orders, I may have a problem, or vice versa. So starting with the right profile, and it can be a custom profile that you're using, not a problem, but that's only using that profile to basically help identify what fields and things it can see. Permissions, this is like we set up any permissions for a person. Can they read chart of accounts? Can they read items? Can they, update sales orders, that kind of thing. When you're developing one, give it a little bit broader permissions, but then as usual with everything we do, don't forget to go back and tighten those permissions down. And then we have instructions here as the next screen. And I feel like that's where we do most of our work, right? In the agent instructions. And it looks something like this. Notice I've got some options at the top. Designer just means I'm going to type them in. I can download some instructions. So if somebody wrote something and you want to test it, you could get their instructions. Or I know I created one agent and I liked it, but I wanted to change it a little bit. So I copied the instructions so I wouldn't mess up the one that was working. And then I also have how to write instructions, and that takes you to Microsoft Learn and gives you the ability to use some of that free Microsoft training documents to kind of help you process through. What I liked about it, and what I'm not using in this demo, is you can put verbiage that says this, what you're trying to do along the way, and structure it more. To me, that's more for developers, and it's really helpful. Uh, it's, uh, it's probably the right way to do things, but for some of these little agents that you want to do, it's some extra steps. Okay, so, and once you get here, actually, there's another screen. What happened to my other screen? Well, let's go in and give this one a try, because you're going to see the whole screen anyway. So I'm going to do we're going to build this customer helper. I'm going to ask it to find customer details. I want to summarize the risk of not getting paid. And I'm not creating a draft customer. I'm just going to create a list of the assessment. And then it's easy, right? It's BC data. I'm not hurting anything. I'm not updating anything. So I can validate it pretty easily. One thing that I wanted to show in my screenshot here is I said, well, shoot, I want to find customers, summarize the risk, create a list. Great, go, right? Okay. I got to be a little bit more explanatory. Someone told me when you're writing AI prompts to think about writing it for an intern, someone who doesn't know your business, who doesn't know your process, is learning, right? So I said, okay. So I went back and I gave it these instructions: find customers with past due balances, summarize the risk for non-collection based on prior payment history. So have they been paying? Do they have a lot outstanding? So it could look at that using some logic. And then I wanted a list of the risk assessment. Give me the invoice numbers and the amounts. And this actually says sort by customer. All right. And then I would check out the results. I'm going to show you the results I got the last time I ran this when I was preparing for this. I literally got a screen that did this. Took each customer. It actually sorted by customer name. So it's in alphabetical order. It assigned a risk. I didn't tell it to do high, medium, and low. It assumed to do that using some logic. Showed me which invoices are past due and told me whether I've got some, medium risk or high risk. And even at the bottom, it added this. It's based on the number and age of invoices, looking at their prior payment activity. If they were long outstanding invoices, they were higher risk. I think the goal of this, what my goal was going to be, is to set this up so that it gets emailed to somebody daily, every week, whatever. That was my goal behind setting up my little agent. Sure, I can go in and I can run an aging report, right? I can have the aging report run overnight and be sitting on in my report inbox on my Role Center. Oh, that's nice, but then I got to pull up that report and I got to go through and put this logic to it on, oh, I see that, School of Fine Art owes, what's that, $30,000. And look back at their payments, how have they been paying, versus looking at this and having some information right away. I could have put the contact name of the customer and the phone number and extended this out even more as you begin to see the possibilities. All right, so hang on, I'm going to pull up Oh, we can wait to work. Okay. So you can see I've got multiple agents up here at the top. But let's walk through building a new agent. So I'm going to click plus. And here's that create an agent. I saw it before. We can look at a sample. Let's go through the steps first. All right. So I can't call it customer helper this time. Let's call it new helper. Could call it risk, customer risk. Notice the display name and notice the initials, and I can, this is a demo of customer risk assessment. This is just text. Notice my arrow. So I'm going to go to the next screen. I need to pick a profile. So I probably should pick accounts receivable administrator would be my guess. So let's do that. Permissions. Okay, I'm going to cheat and I'm going to give super permissions. You would not want to do this, right? You would want to go through and pick out the permissions that are really necessary. I think if you can do super to start with, you know you've got the steps that you need. Now you just have to give the right permission because you don't want to give super to everything. And notice this looks a little different than it looked in on the screenshot that I pulled. I got a different set of instructions here. This is where I edit instructions. I haven't ever changed my agent model because it's the default. The plan, I think, here is to have some other models that are usable, and that's as much as I know. Kind of gets out of my wheelhouse at that point. So let's go to these instructions. Now this is where, remember when I looked at it and I gave it some real simple instructions. What happened here? And I said describe, open the customer, right? See what might be at risk. I just didn't give it enough. And I don't have this memorized. So I'm going to say review customers with past balances. By the way, if you mistype something like I didn't spell balances right, it still can figure that out. Let's see, analyze. Payment expectation based on prior payment history. Assign risk. List customers at risk. Highest. Let's see if that works. So I'm going to simply say, okay. At this point, the system is not going to execute anything. It's just saved my instructions. Now I'm going to say, well, let's see if we did it right. Let me stop this task over here. I was playing with something earlier. All right, so we're going to test this agent. I didn't say update, so yes, I'm going to ask it now to save it. And you can see, here's the list of prompts I gave it, the instructions. I'm going to ask it to run this task. And I have to give it a task title. So what I've been doing is putting test in front of it, but I might say new helper test 1, right? Here is the collection risk assessment. It makes you put something in the message text. I haven't utilized a lot of the what are my options up here because I've been more interested in the output. I'm still a novice. Okay, so we're going to say, okay. You'll see over on the right-hand side that the helper has started, the agent has started. Here in the middle, the instructions never change. And I notice that if I click refresh here, the system will start telling me what of the instructions it executed. Sometimes it takes it a second. I also notice this sometimes will blink on the right-hand side. It will blink a little bit, and then I know it's actually executed something. So this is saying, wait a minute, I need to request a review because outgoing messages need to be approved before I can proceed. That's a new one for me. But here's what it is. Outgoing ranks 4 clients by overdue risk. Well, let's review this and see. I don't think this is an error. Oh, I got a bit different output this time because I didn't give it much instruction about how to output, right? Notice it did not put this in alphabetical order, but rather it put it high risk and medium risk. Gave me the same information that I had in the example that I showed. It just put it in more sentences than anything. So I like this. I didn't ask it for it, but it gave me the past due balances. It also did not give me each invoice, which I did ask it for in my first example. So I think this, again, just a little different. And it's all about how I gave it the instructions. Y'all follow me? What do you think? I'm excited about it. I think I just can see so many uses of it. I was building another agent to go out and look at my customer posting groups and vendor posting groups, get the GL accounts, pull in the balances so I could say, here's all the accounts I need to, reconcile the subledgers to. So it kind of gave me my prompts of, and already looked up all the balances to what they should be. And now I was going to go run the reports and see if I could insert those balances in. It's a work in process because again, I'm a novice. I'm not a developer. So anyway, I was pretty pumped. I thought this was fantastic. And then if I can take and schedule this, right, where it automatically runs and it can provide information back to staff, it's just a win-win. Okay. Let me pop back to the very different output, what we were seeing on the screen versus the first output I got. So you can tell it what you want it to do. All right. Oh, I'm on the wrong screen. There we go. Whoop. Here we go. So remember that the agent is going to act based on the permissions of that profile. It's also, if I'm running it, it is going to look at what my permissions are as well. But eventually I want that to be sitting there running in the background and I'm not executing it. It's going to need its own permissions and privileges. And that's part of what we can put in the agent definition. It does keep you a person in the loop. You can have it prompt. If it hits a problem, it will stop and ask for user intervention. And in my case, I was trying to look up a whole bunch of different customer posting groups, and one didn't have a receivables account in it, and it stopped and said, I can't find a blank GL account, right? So I could go in and tell it to skip any blank fields. It also, and I didn't show you this, but back there in those tests, it has kept a log of all the steps that it's done, so I can find out when there's a problem. Because anything using AI, we still have to be careful. We still have to spend time validating the data that it gives back. I happen to know, at least in my screen here, I went through and double checked all these. The one we just ran, I didn't double check that, but I would, right? Because I ran it with a different set of parameters. Don't do anything in production unless you're just looking at data. Don't do something that says, well, update the shipment date on the sales orders. Because what if it updates all of them and that's not really what you wanted it to do? That could be a little bit of a problem. Okay. What are some of the pitfalls? We're all going to hit these at some point in time. It's not getting to the right data. I had that problem in getting to the right GL account. I didn't tell it that I just wanted the receivables account from posting setup. So it picked up the payment discount account, right? I'm not identifying in my agent which company I'm in because I created it in the environment and company where I want it to run, and it doesn't exist in others. But when you're testing, just make sure you're where you want to be. If an action fails, you're going to see it. It's going to be in that log, and you can tell it. And I'll show you some fails here in a minute. The agent can give you vague answers in that log, but you can use what it puts in there. It says, here's what I'm seeing, here's what I think I need. And you can use that to help you improve your instructions, which I think is really cool. Again, we got to keep talking about your permissions. Don't give too much access. It does say to review your logs and test with narrower prompts. My prompts were very, very large in nature. If I come back and restrict those a little more, I'm going to get better results, faster results. Okay, so I want to talk about these just a little bit. I'm going to go back from this message, open another. So I have multiple agents, right? And this agent, I believe, is the one that I was working on, trying to see what I could do. That had a lot of instructions. This is where I was going out, trying to find the posting group. I ended up having to tell it to close pages and open pages. And I think it may be because I had given it the wrong profile. So it wasn't finding the things it thought it should be able to find. I haven't validated that. What I wanted to show you from here is the test. So down here, and this is from the last test, it literally starts and goes through and it says, look, I'm navigating to customers. It found a customer, it looked up into the customer posting group. Let's see if I can make this bigger. Oh, it's already big. Okay. It tells me that it closed the card. It went to the chart of accounts. It found a GL account number. It's looking up the balance. I even told it how to get the date I wanted it to look for. I don't know why it tried to close the page 3 times. But then it came back and it asked me, this was a reply. It didn't ask me anything. It gave me what it thought I wanted. And that's this actually. So it shows me the posting group from the customer, the receivables account that's in there, the date that it used, and the amount from the general ledger. Not bad. And it said ready to be sent. This is the one I ran right before that. This is from the task on the same agent. Do you see any problem here? It was having trouble getting through the posting group for some reason. I don't know what I had told it wrong, but it kept trying to find the receivables account, but it just was not finding it. Here, this said, I need help. I can't do this. I'm on the customer card and I'm going to the posting group. In fact, it's over here. But I just can't find it. And so this is where I went in and said, let me see if I can't narrow down those instructions to help the agent find what it's doing. I'm still learning. I know that this agent hasn't been out that long, and I'm sure Microsoft is refining and will continue to refine this because this is, I guess, the way we're going with AI, right? And I think it's some fantastic information. My point being is that I felt like I ran the agent multiple times and got different answers. But in fairness, I ran it like the answer and I wanted to fix one little thing. And I ran it again and I felt like it failed somewhere, right? When I changed one thing on it. I'm sure that it's user error because did I always go back in and tell it to update and save the changes that I made? I couldn't swear to you that I did, right? I could have easily done something. I know one time I told it to close the customer list and the customer card, but instead of saying that, I just said close customer. What is it supposed to do with that, right? So as much as I'd love to blame it on AI, I think I probably was a lot at fault on some of it. So be a little patient, right? With your knowledge and with your learning. Okay, so how can you adopt a plan to work on agents, right? We'll start with something low risk. Give me a list of all customers with a zip code of 76 or starts with 76, right? Or given an actual, just something simple. Once you've done that, then maybe build on it. List any customers that have a balance, maybe within that zip code, right? And I have learned that if I do one thing and test it, then I can add to that and test it. Because then I find that if the last thing I added breaks what I thought was working, I don't have so much to fix, right? But I also found one, I was working on one and I just said something about, look at the customers and give me all the past due invoices. And what the agent did was went out and started reading all my posted sales invoices. And it was just taking forever to run. And I thought, and so I looked at the log and saw that that's what it's doing. I thought, well, it could have just, I should have told it to read the customer ledger and filter for anything with a remaining amount greater than, or not equal to zero. Change the efficiency, the time to process was fast, So if something's taking a long time, that refining or instructions, super helpful. Again, it's what we tell it to do, right? So keep improving your instructions. Keep, I think this is interesting. Keep the first agent narrow, right? Start with a low risk, with something that's, I'm just reading and it's going to be simple. And did it get the right information for me? Work in a sandbox. Try to work with some real examples, zip code or something by salesperson, or a vendor posting group or an item category, simple things like that, right? Think all the time, and this is something that is hard, I think, for us, but think about the permissions that governance. How am I going to control this so that it doesn't go out and do things I don't want it to do? I think also if you can make comments in your instructions, and some of that learning how to write instructions will help with that, but kind of build into your instructions good information to help you and somebody else that's looking at it. The last one, and I'm going to use this as a segue into my next slide, but Microsoft Learn is where when it says learn to write instructions, that is taking you to Microsoft Learn. Microsoft Learn is Microsoft's documentation and training platform. And here's a couple of ideas for that. You've got AI in Business Central. It'll teach you about some Copilot and agent capabilities, how to create and activate agents. So in Microsoft Learn, you can literally set yourself a learning path. It's free, by the way. Does not cost to use it. You go out and you can say, well, I'm going to start learning some basics, and it gives you some reading. Most of the little sections are 4 minutes long, somewhere around there. Sometimes they'll have a video in them. Sometimes they'll have screenshots. And at the end of each of these, let's call them chapters, and within the chapters, you've got little lessons, okay? At the end of the chapter, it gives you a self-assessment. So you can easily see, did I capture, learn the takeaways that I was supposed to. Great tools, great place for you to go. Do we have any questions? Anything anybody has tried and says, I don't know what to do?
I'm not seeing any questions on my end. Oh, just got one actually.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so quote, so one thing I struggle with is identifying the best AI use case for my team. I know there isn't a one-size-fits-all approach, but how do you evaluate potential use cases? What criteria do you use to determine which ideas are worth investing time and resources into?
Oh, I think that's probably different for every business and every user, right? Well, I'm going to, in starting, right? I'm going to try to keep it to something as simple as I can. Or if I have to pick one, I'm going to look at where can I get the most bang for the buck, right? In some of my example screenshots where she was showing how much money the company saved over time, or in a year, I think is what she put down. Am I having to missing some shipments, missing meeting some sales deliveries requests from customers because I'm running out of stock? Well, who's the vendor for the things that I'm running out of? Can that help me not run out of stock? You know, that's where I would look at where can I get the bang for the buck. If those are it, and probably that's where I'd want to invest money. If I can invest maybe just some internal time, then I would try to start with simple things to learn from, right? Yeah, that's a hard one. Because I think each business is probably going to have different things. If collections is my issue, I'm going to see what I can do there after I've tried all the tools out of the box in Business Central, right? So yeah, that's a good question. I think the answers could be widespread. Does anybody else have an answer for that? What would you look at to pick where to invest that money? I think we could all probably come up with something.
We have one more question. I know we're running over time, so we'll wrap it up right after this. Our last question of the day is, I see create agents are administrative tasks. If users want to create their own agent, what permissions do I need to grant them?
Yeah, and I thought that was on one of my slides, but today I feel like I skipped over it. There is an agent admin permission set. I'll make sure that I get that in the slide, Allie, before you post the slides. It may not be in the recording, but maybe we can put the slide deck out there as well for everybody.
Sounds great. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. We appreciate you, and as well as your patience with our technical difficulties at the start. But thank you so much, and I hope everyone has a great day.
Thanks, guys.